Hi there. Continuing with the bonus review series about kit. Today I want to talk about multi-tools and utility knives, folding knives, that kind of thing. For a long time, a pen knife or similar type of thing has been a very useful item for people to carry, particularly if you're doing any sort of outdoors activity. The Swiss Army knife became the gold standard for that kind of device. And my favorite Swiss Army knife was the Champ, the Swiss Champ. And I used it on VIP protection, things like removing splinters, opening bottles for people, that kind of thing. I also used it on the range for range training, which was very useful, all sorts of tasks. We'll talk about the tools on it just now, but it was such a useful item. And unfortunately, I actually lost my Swiss Champ on a range. But then the guys in South Africa, I think it was on my first Joburg course, bodyguard course there, they gave me this one. And this is actually a Wenger model, and it's I call it the Instructor Knife because one of the features you can use for lectures. Obviously, it's got the usual blades, large and small blades. This blade here has a nail file built into it, and you've got a bottle opener there, which also has a blade on it. Scissors, really useful piece of kit. Most recently, I was having coffee with a woman who used to train with me in karate many years ago. We were just catching up on stuff, and in the restaurant, two other ladies were sitting there, and they just with a little girl, and just bought some shoes for her. And I had one of those plastic ties between the shoes, and they asked my friend if she had a pair of scissors, nail scissors, and she didn't. I said, I've got a pair of scissors, and they were quite surprised. And I carry this in a pouch on my day sack, and I cut the plastic with the scissors on this. As I say, really useful piece of kit. Screwdriver here. One of the other things it has is a corkscrew, and within the corkscrew, which used to be a tremendously useful item when wine bottles had corks. Some of the wine bottles now don't have corks, so it's maybe not so useful, but within it is this little screwdriver, tiny little one, which fits the screws on spectacles, eyeglasses, or sunglasses. So that's in itself a useful piece of kit. Another terrifically useful item within the case is one end has a toothpick, and the other end has this really cute little pair of tweezers. And with the magnifying glass and the tweezers, it's the best thing out there for splinters. And a couple of times several times I've used it to remove splinters in people on the range or in other situations. And the thing that makes this, I call it the Instructor Knife, is this extending probe. So if you're doing a lecture, you could point to the blackboard and so on. What I found it useful for was search tasks, probing down in soft furnishings, looking for hidden devices on VIP protection. So that was it is my current Swiss Army knife. The Swiss Champ, as I say, was my favorite. And I think that was the maximum size. They do some really massive ones, but for carrying it in a pocket, the Swiss Champ's about as large as you should go, in my opinion. Then we come to another device entirely, which is the Leatherman tool. And this is my original. This is the first model of the Leatherman tool. And it kind of took the world by storm a little bit. Again, very useful piece of kit. And rather than scissors, it had pliers. And I carried that for many, many years until I upgraded to my current Leatherman, which is the Wave model. And Jim Leatherman, who designed it, it's based on, there was a design from World War II, the SOE escape tool, and previous to that, there was a Victorian design that was made by Rogers, and it kind of portable pliers, and it came down to the original Leatherman tool. The Wave has got these pliers, and the difference between, well, one of the differences between the two is that all the folding blades and tools are on the inside, so that when you're gripping the pliers, you have a smooth and comfortable gripping surface. On the original, it was the other way around, and your hands were digging into the edges, and it wasn't as comfortable. Another difference is that the blade, the main cutting blade on the Swiss Army, on the Leatherman, this one here, which is a serrated blade, it locks. So it makes it illegal in the UK. Whereas the original Leatherman has a non-locking blade and is, as far as I know, legal to carry. So that's the difference. There's numerous other tools on it, all sorts of things. And one of the things it's got is a saw, which is a useful device, a useful tool to have for sawing different things. The pliers are quite strong, and they do exert quite a bit of torque. So I tend to use this on the range now rather than the Swiss Army knife. I tend to have it on my pouch. One of the things I noticed that the Special Task Force in South Africa, they were issued this. They all have a Leatherman on the pouch. And I've seen quite a few police officers in the UK carrying Leathermans as well. Really useful piece of kit. Then coming on to another one of the knives, the very first Spyderco knife I bought was this one, the Mariner, because it was a utility design rather than the sort of a tactical knife. It doesn't have a point, serrated edge, stainless steel, and I used it a long time. I used to use it for the range and so on, and still it's by the side of my chair in the other room there all the time, and I've used it for loads and loads of things, cutting through really tough materials, rubber, things like that. It's a great little device. What Spyderco did, they upgraded it, and they made a rescue knife, and then they made this version, which was their latest version, which is called a Rescue Assist, and numerous features on this as well. The belt clip is reversible. You can put it on either side, left or right access. Blaze orange colour, so if you drop it, it's quite easily found. The opening hole here has what's called a Cobra hood, which makes it easy to open if you're wearing gloves or if your hands are cold. There's a whistle built in for signalling. As Marcus points out in something he wrote on the forum, For a survival situation, a whistle is very, very useful because it carries a long way. And when you're exhausted and out of breath, you can still use the whistle. Excuse me. And there's also recognized whistle signals. Serrated edge, it's got a pry tip, no point. Anything where you're working around casualties and so on, it's useful to have a knife that doesn't have a point. It has, excuse me, a feature that you can put some webbing or whatever in there and then just squeeze and it will cut because it's got these grooves on here as finger grooves. The other thing is, if you hold the knife when it's closed, you see here, window breaker, it's carbide window breaker extends. And I think that's it for features on that. Lots and lots of features. Really, I always take this away overseas now. Again, it wouldn't be legal in the UK to have. It's a fixed blade. But overseas, I always have it clipped within my waistband. And it's a very, very useful piece of kit. Marcus gave it to me in Sweden that he was given quite a few knives to give away on one of the courses by Spyderco. They're really great people to deal with. And he passed this one on to me to evaluate. And I've evaluated, I wrote about it, but I've also been using it ever since. It's really, really good item. So there's some of the kit that you might find useful, particularly if you do anything in the way of outdoors activities, range training and so on. These tools, or one of them, will certainly help you. Just think about the Leatherman. If I can find where it slipped, you may notice I put a lanyard on it. I was taught how to make these lanyards, which are very, very simple. I was really impressed with them. They're very tidy, they don't come under, but you've got a source of paracord, which is also a useful thing to have with you at all times. So you can put a lanyard on the Rescue Assist. There is a lanyard hole, and you can put it on that. I did have a lanyard on my original Leatherman, but I took it off because I don't actually use my original Leatherman anymore. I was going to sell it, and a friend of mine said, "Well, why sell it? Just keep it. It's quite a, it's not collectible by any means, but it's just a nice thing to have, especially like now we're talking about different bits of kit. So yeah, I've kept all of it, and it's in a drawer most of the time, but I still have it. So there you have it. Some interesting utility items there which you might find of use.